The modern traveler is consistently drawn to the most fragile environments on Earth. We seek out pristine, isolated ecosystems precisely because they are untouched. But the moment we arrive, our presence introduces immediate friction. The combined economic, social, and aesthetic demands of supporting thousands of visitors, securing food, building shelter, and routing transit, exert intense pressure on these highly sensitive destinations. This creates a systemic paradox. Without strict intervention, tourism eventually degrades and consumes the exact environmental and cultural assets it relies upon to attract visitors. To interrupt this cycle of degradation, the World Tourism Organization established the framework of environmentally sustainable tourism. It functions as a deliberate managerial intervention to regulate how we interact with these landscapes. The core objective of this framework is specific. An industry must fulfill the current economic and social needs of host regions, while strictly protecting the opportunity for future generations to experience those exact same destinations. This framework operates as a long-term management system, engineering the industry to maintain essential ecological processes and biological diversity. Moving from that definition into actual practice requires treating sustainability as a dynamic, four-part functional system. First, the system enhances local community well-being. Second, it balances economic growth by protecting the natural and cultural environment. To keep these stable, destinations must deliver high-quality tourist satisfaction while applying continuous, adaptive monitoring to measure landscape strain. All four of these requirements must operate simultaneously. If one element is ignored, the equilibrium fails, and the region's biological diversity and life support systems quickly begin to break down. Maintaining this precise balance requires host nations to move past guesswork. They have to use specific, mathematically grounded tools to control exactly how much pressure enters their tourism system. Host nations use progressive management frameworks as the active control dials to tune their tourism infrastructure. The primary dial is carrying capacity. This is the absolute mathematical maximum visitors an environment handles before ecological failure. But destinations rely on a secondary metric, the limits of acceptable change. This establishes a strict safety buffer, defining tolerated friction well before hitting maximum capacity. By utilizing these two frameworks, environmental protection translates into measurable boundaries. It dictates exactly how many boats can anchor at a reef, or how many hikers can access a trail per day. While those metrics manage daily foot traffic, host nations must also predict the long-term impact of new development. They do this through environmental impact assessments. Before any new hotel, road, or transit line is approved, an EIA is deployed as a mandatory predictive tool. It evaluates the site to ensure that cultural integrity and essential habitats are not sacrificed for short-term profit. Requiring an EIA ensures that the literal, structural foundation of a region's tourism industry is engineered to respect the environmental balance, well before a single visitor ever arrives. When a destination successfully locks in these three frameworks, enforcing carrying capacities, respecting acceptable limits of change, and mandating impact assessments, the local ecosystem stabilizes. The water quality remains clear, the wildlife avoids displacement, and historical sites avoid structural erosion. The rigorous protection of the environment preserves the exact attractions that drive the local economy. By limiting raw visitor volume to match the landscape's durability, the actual quality of the tourist experience improves. The crowds are manageable, and the aesthetic value of the destination remains intact. Progressive management proves that a destination can thrive economically and deliver a superior experience, entirely avoiding the threat of ecological collapse. Zooming out from individual destinations reveals that this localized systems management is part of a much larger equation. Because tourism is one of the world's largest industries, applying these frameworks at scale addresses a primary global challenge: the degradation of the climates and environments humanity relies on. Enforcing a long-term perspective at the local level, bay by bay and forest by forest, aggregates into a collective defense, securing the biological life support systems required for future generations. When balanced through progressive engineering tools, tourism functions as a sustainable method for managing resources, preserving a stable future for the generations that follow.